Hi, welcome to the second part of the course How to Boost Your Creativity. I'm Dr. Ayla Esen. This is the outline of the second part of this course. So we will first see which misconceptions there are on creativity. Then we will define what creativity is about. And then we will have a look at the creative process as well as the 4 stages of creativity. So here is a list of misconceptions or incorrect ideas on creativity. The first one is the belief that the smarter you are, the more creative you are. This is actually not true. It hasn't been scientifically proven that there is a direct relationship between intelligence and creativity. Actually, creativity skill can be gained through applying certain tools and techniques. We can summarize it as creativity can be learned. So people do not need to be very intelligent to be creative. The second myth or misconception about creativity is that creativity exists outside of time and circumstance. Actually, creativity is related to the individual being in the right place at the right time. If you are not given the opportunity to be creative, even if you have the skills, you may not come up with creative ideas or outcomes. So that's why it's actually related to the circumstance. Another wrong perception about creativity is that the creative act is essentially effortless. No, creativity requires a lot of effort. So it's not very easy to come up with creative ideas, creative products or services. So that's why you have to put effort into being creative. And the final misconception is the belief that creativity derives only from eccentric personalities, like mad scientists. No, actually, these eccentric personalities are, yes, they are interesting, they are surprising, but this doesn't necessarily mean that they come up with really creative ideas. Because now we are going to come to the definition of creativity, and you will see that odd and interesting and surprising ideas doesn't always count as creative output. In order for something to be creative, it has to be useful as well. So here we come to the definition of creativity. Creativity is defined as the production of novel and useful ideas. So the idea has to be novel, meaning new, and it has to provide some kind of use. It has to serve a purpose. So here you see the formula of creativity. New, uncommon, unique, and valuable and useful and purposeful is equal to creativity. So if something is not unique, if it's not novel, if it's not new, we cannot call it creativity. It also has to be valuable, useful, purposeful. So something new doesn't always mean something creative. It also has to serve a purpose or has to have a use. It has to be useful. Creativity is actually stemming from the need to solve problems. So whenever there is a creative outcome, you will see that it's actually because there is a problem in the first place, and the problem is being solved through a creative idea. So we can call the creative process as a problem-solving process. Creative activity appears simply to be a special class of problem-solving activity, and it's characterized by novelty, newness, unconventionality, and difficulty in problem formulation. So you try to solve a problem which requires more comprehensive problem formulation stage. So therefore, you will see that when you look around, all creative products or all creative services are there because initially there was a problem and the person who came up with the creative idea was trying to solve this problem. So now we come to the stages of creativity. All creative efforts actually go through these stages. So first, you should have a problem, right? Creativity is a problem-solving process, so it starts with a problem. So you have to first diagnose the problem. You have to be aware that there's a problem and you have to be willing to solve the problem to start the process. And the first stage in the creativity generation is the preparation phase. You have to set goals to solve a particular problem or to respond to a question. So in the preparation phase, what we do is that we have to diagnose, we have to acknowledge that there is a problem, and then we have to be willing to solve this problem. We have to be preparing ourselves to solve that problem or to respond to answer to our question in mind. Then comes the incubation phase. You know, incubation is like when the birds sit on their eggs and the egg becomes, during that process, the egg becomes ready to hatch. The bird inside the egg becomes ready to hatch from the egg, right? So it's like your idea is also in that phase. So you take the idea, you take the problem, and unconsciously or subconsciously you try to solve it without knowing. It's not a conscious process, it's not a conscious stage, but your mind starts to think about the problem. Okay, the subconscious process is what we always have in our daily lives, daily routines. Like, for instance, you cannot remember the name of a movie. Okay, you want to talk about a movie with your friend, but you cannot remember it. And 2 days later, suddenly, while doing something completely different, like while you're cooking in your kitchen or while you're reading a book, the name of the movie comes into your mind suddenly. So this is what happened is during that time when you couldn't remember the name of the movie until it comes up in your mind, you actually subconsciously, without being aware of it, your mind tried to remember it. Okay, so this is the subconscious process that we have. The second stage, the incubation stage, is therefore a data processing stage, but you are not actually purposefully doing it. It's a subconscious stage. Then comes the illumination phase, like that time when you remember the name of that movie suddenly without just noticing that you were actually thinking about it. It's that aha, eureka time, okay? Suddenly the idea comes up to your mind because you have been subconsciously trying to solve the problem. So it's the illumination phase when you come up with this idea. And then we come to the final stage, the verification stage of creativity. So you have an idea from the illumination phase, the aha phase, and you try to verify that this new idea that came to your mind is actually implementable, is actually realizable into your initial problem or into your initial question that you had in mind. Okay, so you try to verify, you try to make sure that the new idea that you found is actually applicable to your problem. This is the verification phase. So this is the end of the second part of our course. And in the third part, in the next part, we will start talking about different creativity techniques And the first two techniques that we will cover in the next part is the bisociative process and the analogy approach. So thank you for participating, and I hope to see you in the third part of this course.